Three, two, one. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash, and today I'm recording a special video that I wasn't sure I wanted to do, but I thought, what the heck? Now, I don't talk about Star Wars very much on my channel, if at all. It's something, unfortunately, that I don't get to really talk about because I like the Disney Star Wars films. Now, some of you are going to be like, oh my God, what am I doing watching this channel? Unsubscribe. Please don't. But, I guess I can't stop you. I hope that I make content that you like, but I understand. I don't actually understand. Now, let me give you a little backstory. I am a massive, massive Star Wars fan. You wouldn't know that because, as I mentioned before, I don't talk about Star Wars. And the reason I don't talk about Star Wars is because on social media, you pretty much can't talk about Star Wars unless you're trashing it. And then everyone's one big happy echo chamber of hate. But if you dare say, oh yeah, Last Jedi was a pretty good film, you will get destroyed. And some of you probably listening going, well, yeah, damn straight you get destroyed. You should get destroyed. Blah, blah, blah. No. Whatever. I go back a long ways. I'm old enough to have seen all the Star Wars films when they originally aired in theaters. And because of that, and because the Star Wars films are so great, the original trilogy, it had a profound impact on me. So profound. There is nothing in media, there is nothing in TV, movies, books that has had the effect on me that Star Wars has. These aren't just good movies to me. These aren't just great movies to me. These are the bar of which I hold all movies. I hold all forms of literature to. I have seen these films, 50 times each. I don't know. I can't, over the years, maybe more. I almost study them. It's weird. And if you come from my generation and you are a big Star Wars fan, you understand. It was a different time back, when Star Wars was a deal back in the 80s. Growing up as a Star Wars kid, we didn't have even the ability to watch Star Wars on VHS. You got to see them in the theater, and then they became this thing of myth that only other people that saw them in the theater understood, and you could talk to them. Otherwise, they just disappeared, and I think people today don't realize how it is. Now, if you go forward in time, in 1999, the turn of the century, and Lucas came back and he did his prequel trilogy. Man, I was so excited for that. I was living in Southern California at the time. I flew out to Denver to go to that original Star Wars celebration with a couple of my buddies, and we could not be more hyped for a film in my life. I saw Phantom Menace 4 times on the first day. That's right. Saw the 9 a.m. show. I don't remember the other time slots, but all throughout the day, we just kept seeing Phantom Menace. And that was a good time. I saw it 8 times total in the theater. And, I think most Star Wars fans at that time, like myself included especially, saw the film with rose-colored glasses. It took a while to reconcile my feelings because, as the weeks and months went by, I started to realize that the film wasn't as great as I thought. And when that, you pull back that curtain and you see the wizard is just this scrawny little old man, it's disappointing. And that disappointing can wreck some people. Now, I was able to reconcile with it, but some people couldn't. And we saw a lot of backlash. Lest you forget, the reason why Lucas got rid of the Star Wars property in the first place is because of the fan backlash. The fandom menace, if you will, literally broke him. That's sad. I don't like to use the term toxic fandom or things like that. Excuse me. But there's a little bit of truth in that. There's a kernel of truth, and they drove Lucas away from Star Wars. So now we got Disney. Now, I remember when the Disney announcement came, I was one of those people that was like, oh my God, Disney Star Wars, are you shitting me? Remember the memes of like the Death Star with the Mickey Mouse ears and things like that? People were just, crying about it. I was there. I was with them. But then I thought about it for a while, and I reflected, and I was like, this is a good thing. And this is why I think that was a good thing. At least that back then. We only had a couple options of what was going to happen. And Lucas says he's done with Star Wars. So one option is he packs it all away, nice and neat in a box, throws it up in the attic, and forgets about it, and no one gets to touch Star Wars, perhaps ever, until maybe he dies and the estate sells it to the highest bidder. I don't know. The other option is Lucas sell it to the highest bidder. You remember Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney for a pretty low price. I think it was like $4.05 billion. Now that's a lot of money to you or I, but for the Star Wars property, most everyone was like, geez, that's a phenomenally low price. I think Lucas could have just put it up on the market to the highest the highest bidder. And I believe that would have fetched a lot bigger price. And I also believe Disney probably wouldn't have bought it. Because Disney is big today. And then they were big then. But they weren't what they are today, right? The MCU was their big investment, and it was making lots of waves, and I think they were pouring all their interest in that. And certainly they wanted Star Wars, and they certainly snagged it for a deal, but I don't think they were going to get into this big bidding war. And I don't think Star Wars would benefit them the way maybe someone else might think it benefited them. Whatever the case may be. Can you imagine Star Wars under Warner Brothers? Can you imagine the Zack Snyder Star Wars verse, right? What about Fox? Fox treats like the X-Men film. Can you imagine them doing Star Wars? But Ash, Disney owns Fox. Yeah, we didn't know that at the time that was going to happen, and that may not have happened if Fox had bought Star Wars. They would have put them out of reach for Disney. So Disney was a good caretaker. It was the best possible caretaker for Star Wars in the corporate sphere. And Lucas, bless his heart, wanted a good caretaker for the films. But Ash, Disney hasn't. Well, yes, but Lucas isn't a prophet. He doesn't know the future, right? Disney, with Kathleen Kennedy, someone he trusted, and Disney, who he partnered with in the past for things, had shown to really care about their property. And Disney does care about their properties. Disney treats their animation very well. They've had some, lulls in the past where but they always come back and they rebuild their brand, because their brand is important. Say what you will about the MCU, but the MCU is a phenomenon. We have the luxury to bitch about the shit of the MCU only because we have grown to have such high expectations. Why? Because of the MCU. If you go back to the 90s or even the turn of the century, go back before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and imagine we would have given our reproductive organ to get superhero movies like we have today. Now that we have them, it's not good enough. Our expectations are constantly going up, and we need to be more and more impressed. Anyways, I'm rambling on about a lot of different things. I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory about me. Now, when Disney finally took hold and they started making Star Wars films, Force Awakens, I really enjoyed. I don't enjoy them on the level of the original Star Wars, not at all. I saw Force Awakens, I want to say twice in theaters, and I own it, and I enjoy it, but, there was some things missing. I also noticed the analog of, the comparison of A New Hope, which I can forgive. New Hope, well, sorry, the Star Wars has always been one of the tropes of Star Wars is circular storytelling, right? The things of the past come around and they repeat themselves. That's one of the things Lucas incorporated in the films, and it's one thing I believe if I were writing Star Wars films or stories, I would continue. I think that's a great thing. That's part of the Star Wars lore and part of the style and things is to come back full circle, repeat itself, see the echoes. It's very poetic. And when I watch Force Awakens, I see it in that light. I go, I know J.J. Abrams wasn't doing it for that reason, sadly, or at least I suspect. But as an audience member, I can see it and I go, okay, this is just the way things are in Star Wars, and it works. But there's a lot of flaws in that film. Predominantly the main characters. While they were very likable, they're energetic, charismatic. I was like, oh, I like these. They're friendly, and I want to know more about them. They're not very interesting. They're likable, empty husks. Then in Last Jedi, which I like, is in Last Jedi, the characters, unfortunately, they didn't have anywhere to go. And that's a sad thing. But more criminal, the problem with that film to me is that Rey, the main character, the protagonist, the successor of Luke Skywalker, who was the successor to Anakin Skywalker, who was chosen by the Force, the one of the prophecy, the successor is Rey, this Mary Sue girl who could do everything just perfect, just because she never has to train, she never has to actually learn anything. And, as a fan and a wannabe writer myself, I came up with reasoning that I used to theory craft in Last Jedi, like, or actually Force Awakens. Why can she do all these things? She's actually trained already, was my thoughts. This is how I would have wrote her. She's already trained in the Force. She just had her mind wipe. Who? By none other than Luke Skywalker, the most powerful Force user in the galaxy. Why? To protect her. Why would you do that? Because she needs protection because of Snoke and Ben Solo, who was his student who had betrayed him. Why does all this happen? Because Star Wars is circular. That's what happened with Vader, right? He betrayed his friends like Obi-Wan Kenobi, who then had to go and take Luke and hide him on a desert planet. So Luke was a little baby, didn't need his mind wiped. But in my imagination, Rey was, a little girl, just old enough to start, like a youngling, to be taught the ways of the Force. And then the Academy and everything comes crashing down. And rather than have Ben come and get her and turn her to the dark side and everything be ruined, he goes and hides her away, wipes her mind, everything she knows. Now, when Ben captures her and he invades her mind with the Force, that triggers something. That opens up the vault in her mind and lets all those memories start coming out. Not suddenly. She doesn't just all of a sudden remember everything, but slowly she has, like muscle memory. She could start doing things and she doesn't really understand why. And that would totally explain so much of why she can do things with the Force, why she was... But the writers at Disney apparently aren't as good as even me. And I'm being a little arrogant right now, but that would have explained so much. And I have so much more I could talk. I could talk about Star Wars a lot, and this is probably why this video is so long. And I'm sorry. Thank you for indulging me. I don't get to talk about it because, like I said, I made a post on Twitter that all I said was I like Rian Johnson. And people started just slamming me and calling me SJW, and, calling me an idiot, and I'm stupid, I'm a dumbass, just for making an innocuous comment that I liked Rian Johnson. It's so stupid. I don't know. I'm not going to get into there. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening to this video who probably hate The Last Jedi, and that's fine. You can have your own opinion. All I ask is that your opinion be true, like to yourself. Don't jump on bandwagons because 99% of your surrounding, people of circle of influence, they all think that way. Anyways, so here we are. I'm making this video because I'm going to react to the new trailer that Rise of Skywalker just dropped a couple days ago. I'm a little late to the punch, but that's my way. I'm going to make this video, and I'm just going to kind of give you my thoughts. And I wanted you to know where I come from about Star Wars, so that my opinions of the trailer, you have something to gauge. You know my perspective. I'm not here to try to change your perspective. I'm not trying to tell you how to think. I want you to think for yourself. I'm here to have a conversation, like we're setting in line for the movie and we're like, oh, what are we going to, what do we think? And that's why I do these videos. Hopefully they offer something to you. You can listen to them while you're driving, listen to them at work, listen to them while you're probably not mowing the lawn. It's probably too loud, but doing the dishes, whatever it might be. You can listen to the nice dulcet tones of my voice. No. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to watch the trailer, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll end it. All right. Here we go.
It's an instinct.
Now, I got to pause the videos. I'm hoping I don't get a copyright strike here, but whatever. It's just silly that you get strikes for showing trailers. That beginning part, like I said before earlier, that I enjoy that Star Wars do this thing circular and so forth. And I write in my mind, or my headcanon of Force Awakens is that it's just circular storytelling. But really, did you have to make the third movie evoke Endor? Like, it's so uncreative. And I just know that you're not thinking the way I'm thinking about the circular storytelling. You're just thinking in the terms of nostalgia. And I say I mean Disney. Like, oh, make fans remember what it was. Let's just redo the Star Wars movies, for crying out loud, if you're going to do that.
Feeling. The Force brought us together.
Why does Finn have binoculars that look like binoculars? You remember in Star Wars when Luke was looking up in the sky at the Star Destroyers, and he had his binoculars, but they were like a monocular. Like, it looked alien. It looked weird. It looked something that didn't belong. And here, in these new films, things look Earth-inspired. And Star Wars was always opposite of that. Lucas took great pain to make things look different. You remember the Millennium Falcon? Of course you remember the Millennium Falcon. Like, today, it looks so iconic. I mean, we're so used to it. But back then, the Millennium Falcon was like, whoa, this is so weird. The cockpit's on the side. It doesn't have any sort of like streamlining. It doesn't look like a ship. It just didn't look like, it just looked bizarre. But that was part of the coolness of it. Slave One. Remember Slave One? Luke, I hear tales that Lucas designed that off of a lamp, like a street lamp. But it doesn't look like a ship. It looks like a Star Wars ship. Today, we've been trained to think like that, but it doesn't look inspired by some sort of Earth ship. Anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole.
We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead.
Now, we saw Rose Tico. I'm glad that I see her there. I don't understand the hate for Rose Tico. Oh my God, she's worse than Jar Jar. Every Star Wars trilogy, even the original, always has to have the haters hate on something. The original trilogy had the Ewoks. The prequel trilogy had Jar Jar, and now this one's got Rose. And out of all of them, Rose seems like the least thing you should hate. Rose was always the logical choice from a story writing standpoint to put in a character love interest for Finn, because the first film had established this relationship between Finn and Rey, and you knew it couldn't really go down that road. In the novel, which was based on the original script, she was actually in love having, she's having love interest in Poe, and Poe was supposed to die, and so that would probably just make it, so she's has reason to be single. I don't know. But when you do it with Finn, and Finn's carrying on, and that's not actually where the story is going to go, you got to break it off, just like Lucas had to do with Carrie Fisher, or with Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. Once he realized, oh wait, I'm going to have these characters be brothers and sister, he knew that he could not continue with that relationship, and he had to nip it in the bud. And in order to make the audience understand that that relationship was going nowhere, he had to really force the love interest with Han Solo, which was great. It worked out fantastic. I see a similar thing here in writing, that it's like, look, if you're not going to have Poe and Rey, you have to tell the audience so they don't cheer for it, they don't form opinions on it. And maybe that's one of the reasons it kind of got rejected. I don't know. But I liked Tico. I thought she was good for what she was, and don't have a problem. So let's continue.
People keep
All right. This is one of the things that bothers me. It looks really cool to see the rebel, what is it called, blockade runner, flying over the tree line like that. But this is supposed to be Star Wars. Remember when we had space battles and we had ships in space? J.J. Abrams apparently doesn't like ships in space. In Force Awakens, it was all about stuff in the atmosphere. Now, it looked cool to see X-Wings skimming the lake, right? But they're spaceships. We want Rogue One. Remember the space battle in Rogue One? Awesome! And even Rian Johnson understood in Last Jedi, space. Now, that storyline didn't have a setting to allow for a good space battle, but at least all the stuff was in space. We go back here, and it's cool to have an interesting visual. What would that look like? But I don't see anything ever happening in space in this whole trailer.
Telling me they know me. No one does.
Oh, Rey. She looks so menacing. All 90 pounds of her.
But I do.
That is a cool visual. Now, this, I thought, was another cool visual. And one thing that JJ is really good at, besides lens flares, is his eye for visuals. This ice thing, when I first saw it, I thought it was kind of this floating ice asteroid base, but then I realized, no, it's on like a lake or an ocean or something, and that's the reflection at the bottom. It looks really cool to me.
Long have I waited.
Now, I can't hear as I'm playing this video. It's in silence, so I'm going by what I remember the video to be saying, but this should be where Emperor Palpatine is talking. And I'm really disappointed that Emperor Palpatine is coming back for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's just not creatively interesting. And number two, it further invalidates Snoke, who seemed to be kind of pointless in the first two films anyway. And now you're writing it to cement the case that Snoke was just a meaningless antagonist for two whole films, so that the third film you could plop in the Emperor and just be like, ta-da, here's the bad guy that y'all remember him. You loved him, right? You liked him in the original trilogy. You liked him in the second trilogy. Remember him in the second trilogy? Now you get him again. This is Fox doing X-Men. It's Magneto. Second film, Magneto. Third film, Magneto. Fourth film, Magneto. All Magneto all the time. Like, no. The Emperor's dead. Snoke should have been, without a doubt, and still should be, Darth Plagueis. It would have explained why there was a person that's more badass than the Emperor running around. It would explain why we didn't know about him. And it would also tie in the original trilogy, because if you're trying to make this a 9-part saga that's all related, the Palpatine mentions his former master, Darth Plagueis, to Anakin in the original trilogy. And one of the things he mentions about Darth Plagueis the Wise was that he was able to cheat death. That's a pretty powerful ability. It would also explain why he would still be alive after the Emperor died. It would also explain why he would also be still alive after the last film. When Rey, possibly Ben, confront him, and they're like, but you're dead, we killed you, da-da-da-da-da. Snoke can just respond, explain to him how he actually is Darth Plagueis. Dun-da-da-da, big reveal, surprise everybody. And at this point, they go, and he explains, my former student thought I was dead when he tried to kill me, Palpatine. Just like you, my former student, Ben, tried to kill me and thought I was dead, but you cannot kill me. I am beyond death. I am Darth Plagueis the Wise. Holy shit, what are you going to do now? How do we defeat Darth Plagueis? That sets up for a brilliant, epic ending to a massive 9-part saga. You know what doesn't sound cool? Oh, Snoke was just this weird guy that we just put in here. It doesn't really have any backstory. He was just this super powerful dark force guy with no mythology, no lore, and he died super easy. And at the final film, we just plopped in Palpatine out of nowhere. What? Look, Disney doesn't have me on the payroll, but again, I'm going to be a little bit arrogant. Maybe I should be. This is stupid. Let's continue.
And now, you'll come.
Did you see Ghost in the background? This looks interesting to me. Visually, it looks interesting, but then when I think about it, it's kind of dumb, all these ships. I guess it's just like, oh, we got all the people together and they're rallying against the oppressive state.
Together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
That scene, pure emotional manipulation. That's bad writing. I can stomach it. We do all the time, especially in mass market media. This is something that they know. The writer's room knows what they're doing. It's intentionally designed to manipulate your emotions and make you feel like the writing is better than it is. By inserting some sort of little speech or scene that's designed to pick apart what you care about. Now, this can be confused oftentimes with good writing, where you do care about things that are happening, but the natural, organic events of the story trigger your emotions, not having to specifically create a scene whose sole purpose is to do that because the rest of the story isn't doing that. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you have to insert, like, cut, okay, now, audience, I'm going to make you feel something, then cut back to the story that you're not feeling anything, that's what I'm talking about with these emotional manipulation scenes. A good movie that you care about and you're just in grips with doesn't ever break to have emotionally manipulative scenes.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi.
I really hope that scene with Leia is Han Solo's funeral. I think it's really, in hindsight, it's a real travesty that they killed Han Solo. They killed him in a completely unceremoniously fashion and then just forgot about him. Just whatever. Just, in the 7th part of this saga, one of the most popular, arguably maybe the most popular hero of all Star Wars, the only one to get his own solo film, pun intended, and he just killed him and no one cared.
Your destiny.
More nostalgia. That desert scene totally reminded me more of Return of the Jedi with being on the skiff. Lando just being there is pure nostalgia. I like seeing Lando again, don't get me wrong, but Lando should have been in the last film. When they went to Canto Bight, the casino planet that everyone seemed to hate, when they were going to look for the slicer, remember? That should have been Lando. They should have gone there and they found Lando. And because that makes sense. Lando sitting at a Baccarat table, or he could even be Lando being in jail because he was pulling some scoundrel thing, you know. Instead, we got DJ, which I liked. Benicio del Toro did a great job, I think. I know some people were bothered by his weird stutter thing. I thought that character had a great potential arc to go down, where, you know, he was playing off this whole, you know, I'm not involved, both sides are bad, don't want to make a choice. I thought there was some real potential for this character to be developed. I thought it was a missed opportunity. I was like, you should have put Lando here, but since you didn't, let's go with this. But now that you're putting Lando in the film now, all you're doing is shining a spotlight on that missed opportunity. Lando should have just not been in the films, period, if you weren't going to put him in there, because at least then I could say, well, Lando's just not in this story. That's fine. But Lando is in this story, and you didn't utilize him. You just, again, like the Emperor, you just plop him in part. Boom, here he is. Remember, nostalgia, yay, keep buying movie tickets. What the hell? Okay, there's so much to comment on this. Riding horses on a Star Destroyer. I want to see space battles. Space battles. Star Wars. Space battles. Remember, like, the space battle in A New Hope? Remember that one? Remember the cool space fights in Empire Strikes Back? Remember that movie? Do you remember the awesome, probably still has yet to be improved upon space battle in Return of the Jedi? That was, 30 years ago. Do you remember that? Do you remember those? Remember the awesome space battle in Rogue One? Do you remember? Like, we want space battles, not riding horses on a Star Destroyer. And then what's this here? So Rey and Ben are chopping down something, maybe a statue of Vader. I don't know. Are they friends now? I certainly hope that Ben is not being redeemed. Please, Star Wars gods, please don't let Ben be redeemed. He is not redeemable. He killed his father in cold blood. He killed not just his father, one of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars. And before you argue, well, the Vader killed people and they redeemed him. Yes, number one, Vader was the chosen one, the Force incarnate, born of immaculate conception. He is part of this prophecy. He is the exception that breaks the rule. If everyone else can break the rule, then he's no longer the exception, and it's no big deal. Number two, Vader, we knew killed people. Remember, this is before the prequels. All we just knew is Vader was a bad guy. We never got to really witness his evil, other than, he'd force choke some commanders now and then. We knew in the back of our mind, but Lucas was careful not to really show you, so that when you could redeem him, you did care about this character. Even when you go back to the prequels, Lucas didn't show him killing younglings. He didn't show you do something that makes you root against him. This has to always be a character you want to see redeemed. The writers of this trilogy have written Ben so as not to be redeemable. They have written him to be hated by the audience. When you do that, you can't then have him redeemed. That's bad writing. If Ben needs to be redeemed at the end of the story, then you can't have him kill his father. At least not the way that he did, right? Anyways. Riding horses.
The Force will be with you.
Always.
Okay. Now, I may seem like I really hate this trailer. And I do hate a lot of things about it. My biggest concern is that they're going to continue down the path of all the mistakes that they're making instead of building on the things that they're doing well. And I'm also even more concerned about Disney course correcting. There's been such a fan backlash since The Last Jedi that was just amplified by the miserable failure of Solo, that Disney, I believe a lot of people at Disney are like, put the brakes on, we need to change things, and try to appease the fan base. That is never a good thing. Should you listen to fan feedback? Of course. But you should also be true to your vision. The changes that you make should be along the lines like what Lucas did and said, this Jar Jar character wasn't well received, and he pushed Jar Jar into the background. He didn't completely rewrite his prequel trilogy to go a new direction. He still kept his vision, but this character wasn't really liked, so he shoved him in the background. Even though I'm okay with Rose Tico, I could see pushing Rose Tico in the back, keep the story going. You can make subtle changes like that, but I feel like Disney is just going to be like, let's do a complete, left turn, go down this other way. And like I said before, it's going to make Snoke meaningless. It's going to basically invalidate the first two films and that's just stupid. This isn't its own trilogy. This is part of a 9-part saga. It should be upholding to the first 6 films before it. It has a duty to do that when you're calling it Episode 9. I've always argued that Disney should not have been doing this. They should just let Episode 6 end, and that this trilogy that we're seeing here should have been episode whatever of Part 2 saga. Don't do a sequel to the original 6 films. Do your own new saga, a 6-part saga if you want. Start at Episode 4 just like Lucas did, and you could go forward and tell the story of Rey, and then go tell some prequel, whatever you want to do. But no. They didn't do that, and now we're stuck. And I'm being very cynical on purpose. And you're like, wow, Ash, you don't sound like you like these films and stuff. I do. But I don't like everything. And I can be very critical of things that I like, and still not have to just be a hater, right? And that's what I encourage a lot of people to do is, if you dislike something, that's fine. Be critical of it. That's great. And if you do hate it, it's fine to hate it too. But be honest with yourself and allow yourself to have, I hate the word nuanced. It's been destroyed, but nuanced thinking. You don't have to be black or white. It doesn't have to be 5 stars or 1 stars. And anyways, the part of this video was to have a conversation with you guys, to express my feelings. I like some things about the trailer, but I am admittedly the least interested in this film of the whole 3. So what are your thoughts? If you're going to say, I just hate it all, it's all shit, you're free to say so, but I'm looking for people to have, some actual feedback. Is there anything good about these films that you see? Have you even watched this far into the video? Have you unsubscribed because I like Last Jedi and you just can't simply associate with filth like me? Leave your comments below. Thank you for being indulgent and watching this far. I appreciate every view. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.